Like I gotta stretch out my face. My face doesn't know how to work when I'm on camera. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nick with the 1994 Candle Co. And today I'm really excited for today's video. I am actually going to be going over how exactly I make my candles for my business using this guy right back here. This is a Digiboil wax melter. So I'm going to be going over lots of information about the Digiboil, showing you guys exactly how to use it and all that kind of fun stuff, and also going through step by step exactly how I make my candles for my business using this guy. Also, I want to apologize in advance because I am going to be moving you guys around a little bit, so you're going to see a little more of the mess that's usually over here than usual, so I do apologize for that. I did try to clean up as much as I could. Before we get started today though, I do want to go over a couple things just because I know that like some of you are brand new candle makers and some are seasoned candle makers, and you've been doing this probably maybe even longer than I have. I don't know. But I do want to say that with the Digiboil, if you're a brand new candle maker, like maybe you've never even made a candle yet and you just happen to click on this video, I just want to start off by saying you do not need to purchase this to make candles. There are plenty of other wax melters that are much more affordable, smaller scale and stuff like that. And honestly, even at the beginning, I wouldn't even purchase a wax melter. I would just do the double boil method, which I'm not going to go into all the details of what that is, but I will leave a link somewhere up here to another video where I made some coconut soy candles, but I used the double boiler method. So you can use that method instead of purchasing one of these guys. But like I said, I'll leave a link to it up here somewhere, and you can click on that video and go watch that instead and figure out that method before you ever think that you need to purchase one of these to make candles. Really, the reason that you would want to get a Digiboil or another wax melter is if you've been making candles for a while, your business has begun to grow and stuff, and you need something that's going to hold more wax at a time rather than the double boiler method, which only holds, you know, however much can fit in this guy right here. Another alternative is you could also get one of these. This is a Presto pot. So if you're still kind of growing your business and stuff, or maybe you've like just launched or something like that, and you need something that will hold a little more than this, you can get one of these guys. They hold probably roughly, they have different sizes, but I want to say this one maybe holds like 8 to 10 pounds of wax. That's totally just a guesstimate. I'm not 100% sure exactly how much it holds, but somewhere around there. But yeah, but all you do is turn it on over here, it melts the wax inside, and then you pull this little guy to let the wax come out. It's not moving right now, but there we go. And then you would pour the wax into a pitcher like this. Or if you are at the place where you think you're ready to get one of these guys, I do want to mention that these are actually, it's called a Digiboil, like I said, but they're actually meant to be used for brewing beer. Fun fact. But they recently, probably within the last 6 to 8 months or so, they did come out with a version that is retrofitted for candle making, for holding wax. So I do want to just preface that if you are going to buy one of these, I would be sure to get the one that is specifically made for wax, because they were having issues with the ones that are made for brewing beer. And I think the problem was that there's a seal down here. So this is kind of where it cuts off or whatever, where like all this up here is where the wax is, down here is like electrical and stuff like that. So, but they were having issues with some of them where the wax was getting through the seal down here and it was going into their electrical stuff and having lots and lots of issues because it wasn't meant to be used for wax initially. So not all of them had that issue, but a lot of them did. So I do want to just say that if you're going to get one of these, make sure you get the one retrofitted for wax. I will leave it linked down in the description box below so you know which one to get. I honestly don't know I don't know if there's a huge difference. I think that the seal maybe that they use on this one is a little bit different and will hold up against wax. But other than that, I don't know that there's a huge difference between them. But the problem is that if you get the one that is made for brewing beer, it's going to, if you have any issues and you were using it as a wax melter, it technically does void the warranty. So there's a chance that they might just say, sorry about you. And you might be out that, you know, however much it costed. I think they're around $200, something like that. And so, you know, you might just be out that money, and that's a lot of money to just be out of. So I would just, like I said, just be sure to get the one actually made for candle making. Otherwise, you might run into some issues. Okay, and just so you know, I am hand holding this, so I apologize. I'm going to try my best not to be too shaky, but sometimes it just kind of seems like it's a little bit shakier on the screen than what I feel like I'm being. So, but anyway, so as you can see, we've already got it turned on right now. This is obviously off, and then turn it back on. This is what it looks like when it turns on, except this will read the temperature that it actually is in there. So usually like whatever room temperature it is at the time. This is how you turn up to decipher like what temperature you want your wax to be. One thing to notate about the temperature though is that this is definitely a little bit off. So I always set it a little bit lower. I usually set it around 175, 177, somewhere around there. And it does, I mean, as you can see right now, it's heated up to 179 technically is what it says, but realistically, it's probably closer to 190, 195, honestly, inside, just because it's a little, this temperature is just always a little bit off of what it actually is. So for that reason, even though I usually heat my wax up to about 185, I only set this to about 175, 177, just because I know that technically it's actually going to be closer to 190, 195 inside. And as you can see on the other side, there is a 500 watt and a 1000 watt setting. So I currently have the 1000 watt off and the 500 watt on. And so that's what that looks like. They don't light up though, so that always kind of like weirds me out. I'm always like slightly like, wait, which one is on? But I pretty much always keep it this way. The 1000 watt, honestly, I used it one time and it got insanely hot really quickly. And so I don't like to use that one anymore just because it kind of scares me a little bit. So if you do decide to use the 1000 watt setting, I would just suggest that you make sure that you are in the room, that you're going to be, you know, nearby, because like I said, it does heat up insanely fast. And I was honestly just afraid that I was going to like scorch or burn my wax, which is a thing that you can do, so just be careful. It definitely heated up well past what I had the temperature set to. I think I had it right around 175, 180, somewhere in there, and it was reading all the way up to like 220 or something like that, and it was still heating the wax at the time. So like I said, just be careful if you're going to use the 1000 watt setting. I honestly would suggest really just using the 500 watt setting. It does definitely slow down the process a bit or whatever, but I think it's just worth it so that you don't burn your wax or anything like that. Also, a few things I forgot to mention are there's also a Fahrenheit and Celsius setting over here. So I always have it on Fahrenheit just because I'm here in the US, but if you're in another country and you guys use Celsius to measure your temperatures, the way you change that is just by holding down the plus and minus sign at the same time, and that will change it to Celsius. But I'm gonna go ahead and change it back to Fahrenheit just so I don't get too confused. And then the other thing is, this is where the wax comes out. Obviously you just turn this guy to make wax come out of there. But whenever you get the Digiboil, you will have to screw this in to here. It doesn't come already screwed in. It comes with all of the stuff that you need, like the bolt or nut or whatever it's called, the washer or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember what they're called, but whatever it comes with, it goes on the inside, and then you just screw it in. And so I would make sure to maybe use like a wrench or a pair of pliers or something that you can get around it to make sure that it's super tight on there, because if you don't get it really tight, it definitely can leak wax through here. Thankfully I've never had that happen, but I have seen others who had that issue, so just make sure that you really tighten this on there when you put it on. But with that, I think we are ready to get started on making some candles. So first things first, I'm just going to be showing you guys exactly how I clean and wick my 6.5 ounce tins. They are technically 8 ounce tins, but they hold 6.5 ounces of wax. I get these tins mostly from Amazon, but you can also get them from Dream Vessels. They are the same exact tin. I've gotten them from both or whatever just to be sure, but they are the same exact tin. So you can get them from Dream Vessels, but they are technically a little bit more expensive on there, and you don't get free shipping. So I typically just get them from Amazon, but occasionally if Dream Vessels is having like a really good sale or whatever, and I figure out that the cost is a little better, I'll get them from them, but generally I just get it from Amazon. But I will leave them both linked down in the description box below. So first things first, I am just going to be wiping them out with a little bit of alcohol. I try not to use too much, and I always make sure that it is completely dry before I actually make the candles, just because I never want there to obviously be any alcohol left in the tin, just because obviously alcohol is flammable, and so that's not a good mixture. But honestly, most of it dries before I even need to wipe it out again. But sometimes I'll either take the dry side of the paper towel or just get another paper towel altogether. And as you can see, it's completely dry. And then next up, I use this wick center and wick holder just to make sure that my wicks are always perfectly centered. And I get these from Design House. I will leave a link down in the description box below so that you can see them. They do have other sizes just besides these, so they have sizes for tons of different jars. But as you can see, it just fits perfectly in the bottom of the tin or jar that you're using, and then you can just perfectly place your wicks in there. They also have single wicks, they have double wicks obviously, and then triple wicks, and maybe even more than that, I'm not sure, but they at least have up to triple wicks. So the other reason I find it really important to wipe these out with alcohol is because I use wick stick. The other reason that I clean out my jars and tins with alcohol is because I use wick stickers, and I found that if I don't use alcohol to wipe them out, the stickers come off insanely easily. So I don't like to use anything else to clean them out, just because I know that the alcohol somehow, for whatever reason, helps these adhere better to the tin or jar that I am using. So we're just gonna go ahead and pull these little tabs off, and then you just stick the wick on there just like that. I like to press it on there really good just to make sure it's gonna stick. And you can take it off, and then you just place it right down in here, right perfectly where the wick center goes. Obviously it moves when I'm holding it up, but as you can see, it fits right in there. And then you're just gonna do the same thing with the other wick. And then once you've got both the wicks in there, I just kind of take that guy out or whatever. You don't want to obviously leave it in there with the wax and stuff. And then I like to just make sure that they are extra secure in there. So I'll kind of push them down a little bit, and just to make sure they stay in there. And then once you've got your wicks in there, you can just put your wick center on. So I like to do this before I pour the wax. just because sometimes I've had where the wicks actually come out of the little metal tabs. And so, and I did it one time after I had poured the wax, and then like once the wick came out of here or whatever while I was trying to put it in here, it came out of this or whatever, and then the wax was already in there, so I pretty much just had to like get rid of that candle. I think I maybe poured the wax back out and was able to, I don't know, do something with it or whatever, but at that point it just had to become a tester candle because I had messed it up. And these just help make sure that your wicks are perfectly centered and all of that. We are going to be making 4 of these today, so I just went ahead and repeated the same process for the other 3. Next up, we're going to be weighing out our fragrance oil. I use these glass beakers. Everything I use I will link down in the description box below. If I happen to forget anything though, just let me know in the comments and I will gladly link to the product. We're going to go ahead and tare that. And then I use 10%, and like I said, these tins, they hold about 6.5 ounces of total wax and everything. So what I do is, it's actually slightly over 6.5 ounces. It's like a little more like 6.6. And so what I do is I just measure 0.6 ounces. And so I do 6 ounces of wax and then 0.6 ounces of fragrance oil for all of these. So we're going to go ahead and weigh out 2.4 ounces of wax. And I'm probably going to spill a little bit because I like always do. Oh, almost. I got to 2.5. So we're just going to pour just a little bit back in here. All right, now we got to add a little more again. It's always a fun little balancing act. Perfect, 2.4. And once I see that the wax has reached the temperature that I set this to, I just go ahead and I usually like to heat gun my pouring pitcher just so it's nice and warm and it doesn't get too, it doesn't cool down too quickly once I pour the wax into it, because this is like cold steel. So if you're pouring wax into it directly and this is cold or whatever, your wax is going to drop temperature really, really quickly. So I do like to heat this up a little bit just so it doesn't drop so quickly, and yeah. Alright, and once your pouring pitcher is all heated up, you can just place this right on the scale and then make sure it's on 0. And then after that, you can go ahead and pour your wax. And we are weighing out 24 ounces of wax. That is what 6 times 4 is. Oop, I went a little bit over. I always do when I'm trying to take videos. So what I do in that case is just pour some back into the Digiboil. Okay, close enough. 24.02. Close enough. Most of that honestly is gonna stick to the sides of the pitcher anyway. So then I'm just gonna put my thermometer in here. And I did forget to mention I am using 6006, so I like to let it get down to about 175, 180 before I add my fragrance oil. Alright, and we're about 178 point, well, it's falling quickly now because it's out of the wax, but we got to about 178 before I pulled it out. Like I said, I like to add my fragrance oil right around between 175, 180. So you're just going to pour it in. It's going to splash on you. And then I like to stir it for, I honestly don't keep track of time. I stir it for a good long while, honestly. It's honestly probably maybe even longer than 2 minutes, but you really don't need to. I just am overly cautious, and to be honest, I like to pour my candles a little bit cooler anyway. So I honestly don't mind if I'm sitting here stirring for a couple minutes or so. But really, honestly, you could get away with stirring for like 20-30 seconds once the fragrance oil is incorporated into the wax. You really don't need to keep stirring, but I do just to kind of help it cool down a little bit sooner. But like I said, you don't need to. All right, and then once you've stirred your fragrance in, you can just go ahead and pour your candles. Thankfully, these candles do, these tins, like the lids, really don't go super far into the candle, and so you can fill them up really high and not have to worry about it not being able to close or anything like that. And then last step, probably my least favorite, is just to clean out your pitcher so that you can get ready for your next scent. People have asked before, do I ever put scent into the Digiboil directly? My answer is no. I would not suggest doing that unless you were planning on making that many candles, like however many that would even be or whatever, and then you're going to have to clean it out if you're planning on using it for other scents. Unless you're just rich enough to buy Digiboil for every single scent that you have. If you are on that level, then you go for it, but I'm definitely not there, so we just pour fragrance directly into the pouring pitcher. After you've gotten most of the wax out, if you want to wipe it out again with alcohol, you definitely can. I used to do that just to get the rest of the scent out, but to be honest, you gotta realize that like there's so little amount of fragrance in there, so like whatever wax is left in there, the teeny tiny amount of wax that might be left in there, remember that only 10% of that wax is even fragrance, so I honestly don't worry about it. I have never had an issue with fragrances mixing or anything like that whenever I just didn't wipe it out with alcohol. I can never tell a difference in my scents or anything. I will sometimes still, if it's like a super strong scent or whatever, like the one I just poured honestly is pretty strong, so I might still wipe it out with alcohol before I make more candles, but you really probably don't need to. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today as I make some candles. If there was anything that I forgot to mention, or if you have questions about the Digiboil or anything like that, or about any of the stuff that I used, just be sure to leave a comment down below and I'd be happy to answer that for you as best as I can. I have been using the Digiboil now for 7 to 8 months, so I haven't really ran into too many issues. So if you have issues or anything like that you've had, I probably don't know how to fix it, but I can try my best to answer any questions that you might have about it. But like I said, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me while I make candles. I still need to make some more candles tonight, and it is currently after 11 p.m. So I'm gonna go finish making candles and then I'm gonna go to bed. But if you guys would like to continue hanging out with me, just check out one of these other videos that are about to pop up on the screen, and I will see you next time.